Listen closely, my acolytes, to the silence that follows the storm. It is not peace, but the horrifying vacuum of absolute, unyielding purgation. On the corrupted plains of this doomed world, the heretics chanted their profane litanies. They believed themselves safe, hidden entirely from the Emperor's divine wrath. They were fools. The heavens split open with a deafening roar, delivering a singular instrument of absolute, uncompromising vengeance directly into their wretched midst. He did not scream battle cries or shout tactical commands. He brought only the cold, terrifying certainty of the Eternal Crusade, manifested in ceramite. Before him stood an abomination of twisted flesh and chaotic sorcery, a towering blasphemy that dared to draw breath in the realm of mankind. Bound to his holy blade by heavy chains of unwavering zeal, the champion stepped forward. He became the living embodiment of mankind's ultimate, unforgiving hatred. The grotesque beast lunged with unnatural speed, seeking to crush the solitary warrior. But the champion moved with the fluid grace of righteous fury. His counterattack was swift and utterly merciless. The sacred relic weapon ignited with a blinding, holy luminescence that banished the surrounding shadows entirely. The abomination was not simply defeated, it was cleansed from existence, reduced to harmless ash and dispersing light by the absolute purity of faith. Yet the darkness is relentless. Above the fading embers of the beast, a foul witch of the void conjured storm clouds of crackling, profane energy. Arcane lightning struck his dark armor repeatedly, but the unholy energies simply ground it out against his iron-clad belief and the protective wards of his war gear. He did not falter for a single second. The crimson lenses of his helm locked onto the floating sorcerer with an intensity that burned. Defying gravity and mortal limitations, the warrior launched himself towards the sky. He was a black meteor ascending to strike down the unnatural heavens. The witch threw up barriers of shimmering purple light, desperate to halt the descending doom. But magic is nothing against the weight of pure conviction. The shield shattered into countless fading sparks. The foul sorcerer was completely erased from reality, leaving only the silent judgment of the black-clad executioner. Silence reclaimed the ash-choked plains. The chaotic storm was broken, replaced by the heavy, oppressive presence of a victory won through sheer, unyielding fanaticism. He gazed upon a ruined banner, its dark cross still visible through the burns. It was a silent testament to those who had stood before. There was no celebration, no sigh of relief. For this warrior, the conclusion of one battle merely signified the immediate preparation for the next. The crusade is eternal, my acolytes. It spans across the dying stars, driven by a hatred so profound that it bends reality itself. He marched forward into the encroaching fog, an immovable shadow seeking the next heresy to purge. His holy duty is a burden without end. I bring these forbidden truths to you, my faithful acolytes, from the deepest vaults of the Sanctum of Oaths, recorded faithfully upon ancient vellum. This scroll does not sing of fragile peace, but honors the unyielding fanaticism of the Black Templars. They are an eternal storm of holy wrath. To understand their unending crusade, your humble servant must turn the pages back to an era of profound tragedy and unimaginable betrayal. It was a time when the galaxy burned, and the foundational pillars of the Imperial Fist's legion fractured under the unbearable weight of terrible heresy. From those bitter ashes rose High Marshal Sigismund. He was the first to swear the vows of absolute annihilation against all mutants and foul witches. Sigismund recognized that defensive walls alone could never truly secure mankind's survival. The darkness required an aggressive, merciless purgation that spanned the entire void. He chose a path of perpetual warfare, rejecting the stagnant peace of fortress monasteries. His newly formed chapter became a nomadic fleet of absolute judgment. They assembled upon the grand decks of the Eternal Crusader, a magnificent flagship that served as both a soaring cathedral and a relentless war engine. Surrounded by cold marble statues of martyred saints, the sword brethren stood in silent reverence. They embraced a solitary purpose, devoid of earthly comfort. Their hearts harbored an uncompromising disdain for any form of psychic manipulation. To them, sorcery was an unforgivable taint upon the pure human form entirely. Every neophyte initiate is thoroughly indoctrinated into this righteous hatred from the very beginning. They learn that mercy is the greatest sin against the Emperor. Clad in lighter scout armor, these young warriors eagerly await their chance to prove their fanatical devotion on the front lines of countless brutal engagements. Even the lowest chapter serfs toil with relentless dedication, hauling massive ceramite munitions to feed the insatiable hunger of the Crusade's holy weaponry continuously. Beneath thousands of tattered Crusader banners, the Black Templars meticulously bypass the rigid numerical constraints imposed by standard organizational doctrines without a single hesitation. By declaring an eternal crusade, their numbers swell far beyond normal limits. They form a vast, unstoppable tide of black-armored zealots ready to cleanse worlds. They physically bind their weapons to their very flesh with heavy iron chains. This ritual signifies that a blade shall never fall from their grasp. It is a solemn oath of martial perfection. A true Templar either achieves absolute victory over the enemies of mankind, or falls, striving towards it. The legacy of Sigismund burns brightly within their gene seed. His righteous fury echoes loudly across the millennia, demanding constant retribution against all treacherous forces. Before every massive engagement, one warrior receives a divine vision. He strips away his former identity to become the singular, blessed instrument of his liege. Taking up the ancient black sword and the sacred helm, he prepares to lead the fiery charge, completely accepting the terrible weight of impending martyrdom. Let us examine the sacred mechanics of their warfare, acolytes. Within the claustrophobic drop pod bays, the air is thick with the scent of holy promethium. Chapter serfs meticulously load blessed mass-reactive shells into heavy bolters. Every single munition is inscribed with litanies of pure hatred against the mutant and the alien. The thick ceramite plating locks into place with a heavy, satisfying mechanical grind. Internal auspex arrays awaken, painting their visor feeds with targeting reticles instantly. Neophyte initiates kneel before roaring mechanical shrines, receiving the blessings of the machine's spirits. They firmly secure their scout armor plates under the watchful, unforgiving eyes. The clinking of heavy iron chains binds weapons to gauntlets. It is a harsh, metallic symphony echoing off the vaulted ceilings of the grand nave continuously. No blade shall ever fall from a Templar's grasp. This is not merely a tactical doctrine, but a sacred, unyielding physical covenant with the divine Emperor. Observe the terrifying logic of their war gear, my faithful listeners. Their armories are overflowing with archaic technology, maintained by fiercely devoted tech adepts, working in total obscurity. Energy fields surrounding their power fists hum with barely contained destructive potential. These weapons are meticulously calibrated to shatter corrupted armor into fine, unrecognizable metallic dust completely. Servo skulls dispense sacred cooling incenses over overheating plasma coils. The intricate fusion of fanatical faith and grim technology forms the unbreakable backbone of their crusading fleets. Contrast this mechanical purity with the chaotic sorcery of their enemies. Witches of the void channel unstable, profane energies drawn directly from the maddening immaterium itself. They corrupt flesh with foul incantations, mutating simple beasts into towering grotesques. These abominations represent the absolute perversion of the natural order that must be thoroughly expunged. Unnatural runes blister upon their pale skin, glowing with sickening esoteric light. Such dark rituals are highly volatile, frequently consuming the reckless sorcerers who invoke them. Yet the Black Templars bring a superior mathematics of destruction to counter this madness. Launch bays prepare orbital drop pods with flawless, mathematically perfect sequential precision. The Emperor's champion securely fastens himself within the claustrophobic transport. Massive hydraulic restraints slam shut, locking the silent warrior perfectly into his designated orbital strike position. Warning sirens wail throughout the massive starship. The air pressure equalizes rapidly as the heavy metallic launch clamps finally disengage from the drop pod's outer hull. Tattered banners tremble violently as the Eternal Crusader realigns its colossal orbital thrusters. The vast cathedral of war slowly positions itself directly above the corrupted world. The castellan pulls the heavy brass deployment lever downward without hesitation. A synchronized chorus of explosive release echoes deeply through the lowest decks of the vessel. They fall from the sky like solid iron meteors of absolute judgment. The atmospheric friction superheats the armored hulls into streaks of blinding, righteous golden light. Impact tremblers register the devastating planetary arrival. It is a highly coordinated, kinetic bombardment that systematically shatters the heretical defenses before a single door even opens. The explosive bolts detonate, and the assault ramps crash down heavily. Systemic preparation ends now. The brutal, unrelenting hour of holy execution has officially begun, acolytes. The mechanical perfection of their orbital assault flawlessly paves the way for the righteous crusade. Yet, perfection on paper rarely survives contact with pure chaos. Veterans and neophytes alike pour from the metal husks, forming an impenetrable wall of ceramite and unyielding faith upon the desecrated, ruined, ashen ground. They plant their sacred banners firmly into the ruined earth. For a brief, singular moment, the deployment zone is utterly silent, anticipating the inevitable storm. It is in these fleeting moments of quiet that true devotion is tested, my acolytes. The meticulous preparations give way to unpredictable, highly terrifying reality. The tactical projections upon the ancient vellum flickered ominously. The glorious arrival of the righteous vanguard was about to meet with horrifying, deeply unnatural resistance. Without warning, the corrupted earth itself began to heave violently. The horizon erupted in sickly, unnatural light as twisted abominations materialized from the dark shadows. Led by a foul witch of the void, grotesque behemoths charged forward with unnatural speed. They sought to overwhelm the holy line through suffocating sheer numbers. Warning chimes wailed incessantly within every helm. The enemy did not cower before the chosen of the Emperor. They surged like a tidal wave of pure madness. The castellan raised his blessed bolt pistol steadily. He barks no orders, for every Templar already knew precisely what holy duty demanded of them now. Standing resolute before the advancing dark tide, the champion of the Emperor gripped his ancient blade. He anchored his armored boots firmly into the broken soil. The first mutated behemoth closed the distance rapidly. Its grotesque limbs tore through the ruined landscape, fueled entirely by dark sorcery and insatiable, blind hatred. A synchronized volley of holy bolt fire erupted from the Templar ranks. Blessed shells detonated against the charging monstrosities in blinding flashes of kinetic, purifying energy. However, the witch countered swiftly, conjuring thick barriers of purple, profane energy. The heretical shield absorbed the righteous bombardment, allowing the nightmares to advance unscathed. Seeing the unnatural ward hold, the silent executioner recognized his target. He stepped out from the firing line, deliberately isolating himself from his highly protective brethren. Heavy chains clinked against his ceramite plating as he raised the black sword high. He became a singular beacon of doom amidst the highly chaotic engagement. He charged directly into the heart of the twisted horde entirely alone. It was not a reckless maneuver, but a deeply calculated act of absolute fanaticism. A hulking behemoth swung a massive, deformed limb at the warrior. The champion ducked smoothly beneath the devastating blow, his heavy boots skidding across broken stone. The sacred blade hummed with lethal power as it severed the creature's lower limb. Dark, corrosive fluids hissed violently across the pavement, emitting foul, toxic smoke. The gigantic abomination collapsed heavily into the ash. The black-clad warrior immediately used its crumbling mass as a stepping stone to launch himself tremendously further forward. Propelled by absolute conviction, he soared through the polluted air, his crimson lenses fixed intensely upon the vile sorcerer orchestrating this blasphemous, highly unnatural assault directly. The silent executioner descended like a falling star upon the wicked sorcerer. His hallowed weapon struck the shimmering, profane barrier with thunderous, overwhelming cosmic force. Arcane sparks cascaded harmlessly across his dark ceramite plating. The heretical energy shrieked wildly as it strained against the sheer weight of his absolute, unyielding hatred. With a deafening crack, the magical ward shattered into countless fading fragments entirely. The sorcerer floated totally defenseless before the Emperor's chosen instrument of ultimate retribution. Desperate, the foul entity unleashed tendrils of pure, chaotic warp fire. Yet the champion merely raised his armored gauntlet, completely deflecting the blast without hesitation. The relic blade swept through the polluted air in a flawless horizontal arc. It connected with the floating abomination, unleashing a blinding surge of purifying light. No terrible screams escaped the Void Witch, as its physical form instantly dissolved into harmless ash. It was thoroughly cleansed from the fabric of reality forever. Deprived of their dark master's unnatural sustenance, the remaining monstrous hordes momentarily faltered. They turned their sightless eyes toward the lone, towering figure in black armor. Seizing the vital moment, the sword brethren Castellan raised his crackling power weapon high. He signaled his devoted brothers to unleash their fully restrained, righteous fury. The Grand Crusade answered with a deafening chorus of highly explosive bolt fire. They surged forward as a unified, unstoppable wall of pure, metallic vengeance. Immediately, ceramite collided heavily with mutated flesh upon the ruined plains. It was a chaotic, brutal symphony of destruction, orchestrated by humanity's most fanatical and devoted defenders. A young neophyte ducked gracefully beneath a sweeping, deformed claw. He drove his ceremonial blade precisely into the glowing, volatile mass of the towering beast. The foul creature simply collapsed inward, expelling a thick cloud of highly toxic gas. The initiate stepped back, completely unharmed by the sickening, corrosive vapor. In the center of the furious maelstrom, the silent champion became a terrifying whirlwind of dark steel. Every precise strike delivered the Emperor's absolute peace. Heavy iron chains rattled violently as he parried a crushing blow effortlessly. He stood his ground like an immovable, ancient monument of pure, righteous wrath. The sacred bindings of zeal sparked with kinetic discharge. They served as a constant physical reminder that this holy duty could only end in absolute triumph. Slowly but inevitably, the unholy tide was violently pushed back into the choking dust. The heretics finally understood the true, inescapable horror of the Eternal Crusade. There is absolutely no retreat permitted against the Black Templars. The Castellan fired calmly, ensuring every fleeing abomination was swiftly and permanently expunged from existence. A brilliant flash of kinetic force entirely consumed the retreating nightmare, leaving nothing behind except a scorched shadow, permanently burned into the fractured, ruined earth. The silent executioner finally paused amidst the drifting, toxic embers of his purged foes. The immediate vicinity was thoroughly cleansed of all profound, unnatural corruption. Yet his holy task remained woefully incomplete, my acolytes. He slowly turned his crimson gaze toward a distant, heavily fortified spire radiating sickening emerald light. The emerald glow pulsed with malevolent intent. Even the most zealous brethren began to falter under the heavy, unnatural psychic weight of that distant spire. I watched the records deeply, noting how promising initiates collapsed into the choking ash. Their pure bodies were simply overwhelmed by the relentless, esoteric corruption. Their ceramite plates corroded silently under the foul, atmospheric taint. The cost of this eternal crusade is invariably measured in the silent loss of exceptional warriors. Yet the Emperor's champion did not halt his relentless advance for a single second. Mourning is a luxury the Black Templars simply cannot afford, my acolytes. He marched directly toward the swirling emerald vortex, alone. The towering structure defied all logical architecture, spiraling upward like a twisted, highly blasphemous metallic monument. His sacred relic weapons sparked fiercely in clear defiance. The heavy iron chains rattled against his gauntlets, eager to deliver the Emperor's final, absolute judgment. The remaining brethren secured the perimeter with disciplined precision. They formed an unbreakable ceramite wall around those who had already fallen to the unnatural atmosphere. Esoteric lightning struck their holy armor repeatedly without effect. Their combined faith acted as a highly impenetrable shield against the chaotic tempest raging violently around them. Through the blinding storm, their tattered banners stood entirely resolute. They anchored the defensive line while their chosen executioner approached the dark nexus of absolute corruption. Suddenly, the towering spire fractured violently at its base. An illogical, blinding luminescence erupted outward, defying the natural laws of physics entirely in its terrifying wake. The sudden burst of profane energy washed over his dark armor entirely. The champion cast a long, immovable shadow against the brilliant, highly unnatural radiance. I witnessed the sacred records seemingly burn themselves in sheer protest. The highly corrupted phenomenon unfolding on that planet completely baffled standard Imperial strategic understanding. Gravity itself simply ceased to function near the nexus. Massive fragments of shattered rock and torn metal began floating aimlessly within the terrifying, swirling emerald storm. The chosen warrior observed the suspended debris with cold calculation. This was a spatial anomaly, generated by an entity far older than the mutant hordes entirely. His targeting arrays struggled to lock onto the shifting, impossible geometry completely. The chaotic disruption challenged the highly advanced sensors housed within his ancient, blessed helm. A jagged tear, in reality, opened directly above the spire. It was a terrifying gateway into the maddening immaterium, leaking foul whispers into the material realm. From the distant perimeter, the Castellan witnessed the terrifying cosmic fracture. He immediately recognized the sheer scale of the horrifying heresy, attempting to cross over completely. He slowly lowered his blessed weapon in silent realization. Standard munitions are utterly powerless against a fundamental tear in the delicate fabric of the physical universe. Yet the Emperor's champion harbors absolutely no fear. He purposefully stepped onto a levitating fragment, ascending steadily toward the heart of the horrifying cosmic anomaly. Leaping deliberately between the floating ruins, he climbed higher into the chaotic storm. He brought the heavy, uncompromising weight of absolute retribution directly to the void. The terrifying void sought to consume him entirely. Yet the black-clad warrior became an immovable anchor of pure faith against the swirling, highly unnatural cosmic tide. He raised the ancient relic high above his helm. The sacred black sword hummed violently rejecting the maddening whispers bleeding from the fractured reality. With a singular, devastating strike, he drove the holy blade directly into the dark nexus. Blinding, righteous energy surged aggressively into the chaotic, impossible tear. The blasphemous rift simply collapsed inward upon itself. It imploded completely in a silent, overwhelming flash that instantly banished the encroaching madness from the devastated world. Gravity returned abruptly to the ruined landscape. The champion descended heavily amidst the falling debris, his ironclad boots striking the ashen earth with unyielding, terrifying finality. The towering esoteric spire crumbled into fine dust entirely. It was utterly erased, leaving nothing but an immense crater of scorched stone and lingering toxic smoke. The ash-choked battlefield finally fell eerily silent, my acolytes. It was a terrifying stillness, unbroken by any signs of life across the highly irradiated, ruined plains. The surviving brethren observed the profound desolation coldly. There were no joyful celebrations for this victory, only the heavy, inescapable burden of their continuous, sacred duty. Fallen initiates lay completely motionless within their blackened ceramite plates. They had given their absolute all, achieving the Emperor's peace on a forgotten, nameless rock. The Crusade reformed its unbreakable ranks without delay. They marched away from the silent dead, leaving them as eternal monuments of pure, uncompromising religious fanaticism. Their chosen executioner did not look back, even once. He strode deliberately toward the extraction zone, his dark silhouette blending seamlessly into the creeping planetary shadows. The rusted chains of zeal clinked softly against his gauntlets. They whispered a solemn promise that this violent purgation was merely one chapter of an endless war. As the storm cleared, the true cost became undeniably apparent. The planet was saved, yet irreparably scarred by the absolute fury of the Emperor's most zealous servants. We return to the quiet shadows of the Grand Archive. The profound weight of these recorded deeds hangs heavily within the suffocating, dust-filled atmospheric gloom. I carefully fold the ancient vellum oath closed. Its sacred ink forever preserves the terrifying memory of a world completely cleansed by righteous, unyielding black steel. The boundless shelves of the Sanctum of Oaths stretch endlessly. They hide millions of similar tragedies, documenting a galaxy slowly suffocating under relentless, unending total warfare. Your humble servant turns away from the illuminated lectern slowly. My mechanical augmetics whir quietly in the oppressive silence of this deeply buried, forgotten historical vault. The servo skull sensor drifts away into the absolute darkness. Its holy incense slowly dissipates, leaving only the bitter, metallic taste of an empire in perpetual decline. Observe the flickering candle upon my stone desk, faithful acolytes. It struggles desperately against the creeping, overwhelming shadows that threaten to consume humanity entirely every day. A sudden, chilling draft extinguishes the fragile flame completely. The records are sealed away, but the terrifying Eternal Crusade burns fiercely across the dying stars, forever. Do not mistake their fanatical brutality for madness, my acolytes. In a galaxy utterly overflowing with unimaginable horrors, their absolute extremism remains our only viable shield. The Black Templars endure simply because they refuse to compromise with the encroaching darkness. Peace is a pathetic illusion that invites inevitable demonic consumption completely. Their massive fleets drift like silent, vengeful ghosts through the cold void. Every single sworn battle brother represents a towering monument of concentrated, uncompromising human hatred. Whenever heresy dares to raise its vile head from the immaterium, the Emperor's chosen executioners will fall from the bleeding heavens to deliver absolute, swift ruin. They are the physical manifestation of our dying empire's most tragic necessity. A grim reminder that humanity must become a monster to defeat the warp. So we record their bloody deeds here in the suffocating silence. We study their fanaticism and pray that their holy, burning rage never truly falters. May their rusted chains bind them eternally to their sacred duty. For if the Eternal Crusade ever stops, the galaxy will instantly plunge into total, inescapable night. Reflect heavily upon these grim truths, acolytes, and prepare your own souls. The universe cares nothing for our fragile hopes, demanding only endless, unyielding sacrifice. Hold fast to your devotion, for the eternal war demands nothing less than absolute surrender. Imperator, gloria in excelsis terra. If you truly enjoyed this dark lore journey, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel so we can explore more universes together.